Hey, welcome to Unperturbed, the podcast where high-achieving Black women come to take off their strong Black woman cape. You know, the one that keeps them people-pleasing, overgiving, and putting themselves dead last. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. On Unperturbed, we're empowering you to put you first, unapologetically and boldly, so you can show up for yourself the same way you've been showing up for everyone else. This is where empty vessels get refilled. So look, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, share it with your sister friends who are running around with empty cups too, and then come kick it with us inside The Haven, our private Facebook community where we go even deeper. Trust me, you need this space. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us. All right, it's time for the best part. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, what's up? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda, yet again for another episode of Unperturbed. Listen, I got something for you today. You're not even ready. I'm so excited to welcome Toni Brown to the Unperturbed show. Hey girl, hey, welcome.
Hey girl, hey, thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you here. I'm super excited to share with you and with the viewers and listeners of Unperturbed. Share with us a little bit about who you are, what you do. Let us get to know you a little bit before we jump into this conversation.
Toni Brown, and I always use the S in my name for my middle name because it's such a common name.
Got it. Toni S. Brown, put some speck on her name, in other words.
And I'm actually a junior because that was my father's name, so you know.
Got it. I totally get. My daddy's Ronald and I'm Rhonda. So
okay.
I get it. Yeah.
Well, I'm Toni S. Brown. I am a personal brand strategist, speaker, and designer. I work with Black female executives, leaders, and entrepreneurs to help them to build their influence, impact, and income for personal brand development. I am a corporate, I'm not going to say corporate dropout, but I was in corporate America for 20 years and I left to pursue my dream to have my own business and to raise my daughter without her being a latchkey kid. And I wanted the freedom of being an entrepreneur. And so that's what I did. And that's where I am.
How long have you been in entrepreneurship?
I always just get the number all wrong, but it's been over a decade.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
We love longevity. We love that. I love that for you. So thank you for coming on the show. One of the things we were talking about as we were, preparing to record was this idea of being able to show up as who you are. That resonates with me so much. And even I know you were saying how it hits home for you. But one of the things in our conversation that really resonated was how much we have to censor. In fact, I was talking to somebody not long ago about code switching. And they were like, code switching, everybody does code switching. It's a normal thing. If you have an accent and you take your accent off, that's code switching. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody's code switching to the point where you just don't get to exist anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. Where my code switching isn't to so you can understand me better. It's so that you're not offended by me. And when one of the things that we have as Black women that we've had to do time and time again is to self-censor. So I can't show up in all my Blackness. However my hair looks, I can't show up in all of that. I can't be direct. I can't be assertive because then I get labeled with all of these things. And so I love the fact that as we were talking before the show, you were, sharing how authenticity is so important for you in your business. It's important for you in your everyday life. So share with the viewership kind of what you were sharing with me about how authenticity has really impacted your perspective as a Black woman and your kind of your everyday life as a Black woman.
That's interesting that you mentioned code switching because I don't feel that that's present. I tell people that who you get online is the same person that you get in person because I refuse. You might get a different dimension. So I wouldn't say code switch, I would say dimension. So of course, depending on where you are and what you're doing, you will talk a specific way, act a specific way, but it doesn't go against who you are as a person.
Right.
So for me, I don't do that at all. I'm like, you're going to get nails, you're going to get this Baltimore/DC accent. You're going to get all of it. You're going to get however, whatever my hair is looking like that day, whatever I have on. In my posts, I don't sugarcoat things when I'm talking
Mhm.
about my business or whatever. I am a direct person, but I think it's important to balance that with being tactful and respectful. So
For
being direct
sure.
and assertive, and it does not contradict tact and respect.
Right.
And, with me, I balance those things with being authentic because, yeah, when we're with our friends, we can, speak a particular way and talk about different things that,
Mhm.
the masses, they don't need to know because that's just not where you are.
Right.
But in terms of how you show up being authentic, I just I think that is part of the reason why, I wouldn't mind going back to corporate America, but it would have to be very specific. It would
Mhm.
have to be very specific because I refuse to be
Right.
I refuse to be fake. If I have to be fake, then just leave me out of it.
Right.
Just get somebody else to do it. Because I just
Right. I'm
like,
not gonna do it. Yeah,
mhm,
and I think honestly, a lot of us are getting there. I think a lot of us are more more and more feeling like I have been jumping through y'all's hoops. I have been trying to show up like y'all like me. I've been very demure. I've done all of the things, right? And y'all still don't want me. You still don't accept me. You still call me aggressive. You still say I'm hard to work with. You still. So then I'm done. I'm just going to show up and what you get is what you get.
yeah,
And I think that's one of the things that one of the weights that we have carried is that we have tried to morph ourselves into being acceptable in various spaces. So at home, we're, this way. And when we're at church, we're this way. When we're at work, we're this way. And sister friends, this way. And it gets to be exhausting flipping and flopping all of these hats and trying to remember or feeling like I'm tired of all the switching. I just want to show up as me. I
yeah,
just want to be I just want to be seen and loved and respected and valued for just who I am rather than for who you see me as in that moment. It's like art morphing every time somebody new comes to look at it. It's
mhm,
like, I'm going to change into a statue so that you'll like me because you like statues. I'm going to change into watercolor. No,
mhm,
the art is what it is,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
And we find that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some things,
mhm,
you're going to love me. Some people, they're not going to love me. But I love me enough, right, to show
yeah,
up as myself, my true self. So I know this is something that you talk about, you work with women all the time, especially in branding when it comes to, being authentic and really putting themselves out there. I think traditionally we've been conditioned that we have to perform to
mhm,
be accepted.
mhm.
And so now it's really, really hard for us to believe that we'll be accepted for our authentic selves.
So this is one of the things that I talk to my clients about. I say you have everything that you need already.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
I'm doing is packaging and positioning you. I'm not making you over. This Even on the photo shoots, we're not making you over.
Mhm,
We're just working with the beauty that you already there.
mhm,
Okay, you gained 10 pounds. Okay. Now if you're not comfortable with it, okay. But if
mhm,
you're just like, I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to find some looks for you that maximize what you love and minimize what you don't. And we're going to get
mhm,
in here. We're going to, amplify your beautiful features. We're not going to change your face structure with a bunch of makeup. We're just going to amplify the beauty that you already have, and that's what we're going to do because it's tiring to show up as anyone else other than yourself. See,
absolutely.
that's the thing that makes us so exhausted is because we're trying to show up as somebody else. It's not the chores, it's not the taking the kids to their practices and their games because really that's the joy. I mean, we love a clean house. We want to support our children. We are
Mhm,
those mothers. So that's not
mhm,
really tiring per se. It's the performative work. It's everything that we have to do outside of the things that we
mhm,
love to do that we
mhm,
feel
mhm,
like we have to change that in order to fit in the space. And for me, in my space, and I did a post like this a long time ago, and I said, I'm the black sheep of branding, and I'm okay. I'm not the person that, and I see it because It's like, people in my space, they're on each other's podcasts, at each other's events. They're shouting out one another. And I've been in the space just as long, if not longer. And I know I'm probably older than them, but it's like I don't get those opportunities in it. And I know it's because I'm not going to assimilate. I'm
Mm,
going to call out fakeness. I'm not going to be associated with anything that's forcing me to not be authentic, or anyone who wants me to, shrink or even dim
right.
myself for, them to be comfortable. And again, it's not about being rude or anything like that. It's just having a standard for and boundaries that you have for yourself, that you just won't allow anyone to disrupt. And I think that's where real authenticity lies, is knowing your boundaries and your standards, and not allowing even your own self to cross over that just to do a thing.
Mhm.
That's one of those things. We are moving towards self-acceptance because everything else is tiring. It's tiring to be somebody else. I remember my early on, like, attempts at branding for my own self, my early on attempts at photo shoots and things. Like, I look back at those pictures, I was like, what was I doing? What in the world was I
I was doing the
doing?
best I could. Oh, child, she was doing the
I
best she
know,
could
what
do.
was I doing? And it's all growth, it's all learning. But then I look at, like, my photos today, I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Mhm.
I'm not smiling on everyone. Now, it's difficult because I'm a person that laughs. So, the photographer will capture that. And I might get on the phone with a client and I'm just as serious. And we talked about that. I get, serious because, we're talking about your money, your time,
Mhm.
your energy. So I have to
Right.
be serious. We will laugh after we decide what the plan is.
There you go.
Once we
Yeah.
get into that project flow, once we get on that photo shoot and we have our calls, then we'll laugh. But anything else that has to do with your project and your business and making sure that you're in alignment, seriously, we might not agree though, but I'm going to stand firm in what I'm saying about a thing, owning my own truth and
Mhm.
expertise in what it is that I do. That also adds to this authenticity too.
Mhm. Was there ever a time when you made a conscious decision, right? Like this is what I want my standard to be. Like
Mm.
I'm done. Like have you ever had a moment where you were like, this is a page turn. I'm done allowing X types of things to happen to me. And I want to discard that, shed that, and show up as myself. Like, was there a defining moment where you felt the fatigue, you felt the literal like I'm over this? Was there that moment for you?
I think that the scene in DC and Baltimore is one where it's not a what you know, it's a who you know type of situation.
Mhm.
And I think early on, and it's not a negative, I'm not saying in a negative way, it's just it's what it is. And I early on with my business, I would be at all the networking events, all the things, and just hanging out with everybody. And it was cool. But what happened was, is I found myself in spaces where people didn't care for me. And these were the same peoples that I actually admired and, wanted to work with, and, ultimately wanted to work with a few, but they didn't care for me. And I found that out later on. So now my commitment and my standard to myself is I don't go in any room where it's not 100% positivity. Now,
Mhm.
mind you, you don't always know who's going to be at a networking event. But if I'm looking at a group of speakers and one of those speakers is somebody that I'm not in alignment with, I'm not going to go.
Mm.
I just refuse to be in a space. And it's like, oh, well, you can just show up and just be yourself. Well, this part of myself, they might not appreciate.
Right,
So,
I need to I don't think y'all wanna see that side.
no.
That's not the part. So we need to prevent her from being in that part.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
not even in a confrontational way, but unfortunately, as much as, Black women uplift one another, we can be each other's own worst enemies.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to be in spaces where you are celebrated.
Absolutely.
Don't just confine it to, working at a job where people respect you, or, being in a relationship where, your partner absolutely loves and is loyal to you. But even in business, be only in spaces, if you can help it,
Mhm.
where there are women there that are all about support,
Right.
not backbiting or anything like that. And for me, and I know my sister and I, we were talking about an event that we possibly wanted to go to. And when we thought about it, because We were raised by the same mom, so we were very much alike.
Mhm.
So when we looked at the who was speaking or who was going to be there, we were like, well, we could just show up and just be our full selves and, not care about, all of that. And then we were like, well, no, it's not worth it.
Right.
I don't even want to be in the space with the way my energy is
Mhm.
and have it be, dimmed or change just shifted just because people are in the room that don't care for me and I don't care for them.
I love that because one of the things that has been very liberating for me in the recent past has been looking at spaces where people think I ought to be
Mhm,
and evaluating them and going, I don't want to be there.
mhm,
Right. So a networking event or some sort of, event somebody's hosting and might have even paid money to go or whatever. And you sit down and you feel your body is not happy about having to go. It's turned into, I gotta do this. I have to be there. Not like, oh, I'm looking forward to going, but now you're going out of obligation, right? And so I've gotten to a point where I really listen to my body. And if my body is like, we don't want to be there, I'm like, well, then no, no.
right.
And it used to be a thing where in true strong black woman fashion, I would press on because the expectation was we expect you to be in this room. We know
Mhm,
this is the kind of room that you would be in. So we expect you to be here.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I have had times I've looked at my calendar and it has even been stuff that I was hosting and it just didn't resonate anymore. And I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that, and the feeling is liberating. It's
mhm,
like a weight comes off your chest when you stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself and say, you know what, that does not feel good to me. I'd rather not put myself in a position to have to force myself to enjoy this space or to be happy in this space. And so that is, I love that you all had that conversation and that you were true to, kind of this boundary that you set, right? Because I've been also talking about boundaries this week on some other episodes, and your boundaries just can't be fluid.
No, it can't be fluid because then you wind up making decisions that you regret and you put yourself in a space, why did I do that? I knew that was going to happen. And so I think that
Absolutely.
one of the statements that you made that's powerful and it's so simple. And I literally learned that lesson from my 7-year-old niece. And I asked her to do something. And then she said, I don't want to do what I don't want to do. And I said, it's so simple and so revolutionary. And that is, I use that to this day. You said, I don't want to. I don't want to is enough of an explanation, but
Right.
I don't want to do what I don't want to do. Like
Yeah.
that is such a
Yeah.
powerful admission. And, in the places where people expect you to be, they'll be all right. They'll be okay.
And
You don't
listen,
have to be
the more
there.
I think about this, like it is a simple statement, but if you really break that statement down, like I've already decided the things I don't want to do. And it's reminding myself, hey, I don't want to do what I don't want to do.
Yes.
I That is so profound.
I
That
know.
little girl, she's got it. I
She
don't want to do it.
she look, she could be a podcast guest because I'm telling you the things that she say is so good. Like, who are your
Wowzers.
parents? Of course, it's my sister. But who is your family? Of course, it's us. But
Right,
we
right.
come from a line of women that don't do what they don't want to
Mhm.
do. And in reflection, and I was talking about this with my sister, I said, our mother, she was a government worker for 30 odd years, but she was an employee, but she did not function like an employee. She was a
Mhm.
boss. It wasn't even about strong black women didn't even exist. That's not what
Right.
we talking about. She just was a boss. She was true. She was definitive. She was a strong woman, but not like in the moniker of a strong black woman.
Mhm.
That is a debilitating moniker.
Mhm.
It's debilitating because it keeps you trapped in the cycle of you perfectionism and you can't be
Yeah, yeah,
strong
yeah.
enough. So it wasn't necessarily that, but I think the boss mindset was that it was about survival for them. They had to operate in a space where they didn't have all these resources, social media,
Mhm.
this, that. They was paying they bills with money orders and checks. They had to go here, go this way. So just in a survival space, and she really, when we thought about it, we said she had that mindset
Mhm.
and it made her sure. And she put that
Mhm.
sureness in us. And it's of course it's something that, me and my sister were 10 years apart. So we learned that lesson about authenticity and surety at different stages. But I remember the
Mhm.
first time that I knew that I did not need friends. And so I keep that. I keep that. And so when I think of myself being like the black sheep of branding, I'm like, I don't need friends. I'm not looking for friends. That's not why I'm in business. I'm trying to impact black women and help them
Mhm.
to be seen and heard. I don't I don't need friends. Oh hey, but of course that's not the case. But I have supporters. I support people. So of course it's like a community type situation.
Absolutely.
My clients can become my supporters and things, but I mean friends to the degree I'm going to let you betray me. I'm going to let you talk about me. I'm going to let you do all the things contrary to what a friend should be, just so we can be friends.
Right.
I learned that when I was maybe 9 years old, and it just is something that stuck with me. And that coupled with, my mom, it helped me to establish boundaries and standards that of course keep adjusting every year I turn older. Like I have standards and boundaries for everything.
And that's how it should be. Your boundaries, I think sometimes we believe that boundaries sever relationships and create distance in
Mm,
relationships. And it's actually the opposite. It tells people, your boundaries tell people, you want to be close to me, you want to be in my world, you want to be connected to me. Fine, I'd love that. But it happens on these terms. It
mhm,
happens if we meet these requirements, which means I love you, I want you in my world, but I don't want the toxic crap that you might bring into my world. So as long as, we have this understanding that the boundaries are my ability to control what I do. You can do whatever you'd like, but my reaction, my boundaries are what tell me how I'm going to act while you get to do whatever it is you want to do. It's not me controlling you at all,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
My boundaries simply say to me, when you start acting a fool, I get to go. See how easy that, and you don't even have to stop. You
Yeah, you
can
don't have
continue acting a fool.
and,
I just
and
won't be there to see it.
And even that boundary, as you started thinking about it, the boundary is it can govern everything because even the boundary, I don't want to do what I don't want to do. That's the boundary.
Mhm.
If it's nothing else, and that's I think having those defining moments and those short statements help you be authentic. It helps you to break away from the expectations that people try to put on you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to do what I don't want to do. I
Mhm.
know you're expecting me to do one thing or expecting me to act like a strong black woman or to embody whatever adjectives you all have put on that frame, but I'm about to flip the script because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not a strong black woman. I actually want people to do
Listen,
things for me. I actually do need help. Yes,
please,
yes,
somebody come and help me.
yes,
Somebody's like, I'm not every woman. It is not all in me. Find
me.
somebody else to do it. Okay. That's not me.
No,
I don't want to be
no,
her.
no. I want to raise my hand for the first one that
Right. Can I get off this ride, please?
yes,
Please. Yeah.
exactly. That's me. And and some, and I was thinking about this, and I know we touched on this a little bit. I don't know if we're going to expound on this, but even this whole idea of being single and being an entrepreneur. People, women, black women, we, being single and hustling and hustle
Yeah.
culture. And I'm out with my friends and we having fun. That is fantastic because I travel with my sisters too.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you that there is a time, especially when you're a solopreneur, that gets lonely. Building on a personal level, it absolutely does get lonely. And I was married before, and yeah, I have my finger up to get married again.
Mhm.
When the standard and the boundary is met, then
Right.
then
There we
then then
go.
then, then
Yeah.
there he is, and yeah,
Yeah.
but until then, you know, that's where I'm kind of stopping even with that. So it's
Mhm.
like it spreads across it's a statement of treatment. It's a level of treatment that you're expecting from yourself and from others who desire to be in your space.
Right. Right. And it to me, especially for those of us who are open to relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever the case may be, it really does model for them how you value you, how much you love yourself. And so they get to see, oh, I don't just she doesn't just treat herself any sort of way. So I'm not going to be able to treat her any sort of way. And so it kind of, it kind of screens people proactively, but it really lets people know what you deem to be safe for you. And so when they come into your space and they're doing things that aren't safe for you, you don't have to set a boundary. All you have to do is enforce a boundary. Like, listen, I
Mhm.
already said this kind of behavior or this kind of interaction or these things are not my jam. I don't want to participate in that, right? It's one of those things I don't want to do. And I don't want to do what I don't want to do, right? And so now you have a choice. You either adjust behavior or we part ways. And that, I think, one of the things, in the negative side of being a strong Black woman, we have morphed our boundaries to accept to try to accept the best parts of toxic people and
Mhm.
keep out the bad parts of, like, we've tried to morph ourselves around their toxicity, when all we have to do is really just set up the wall and say, listen, this is the boundary, you do the modifying. I'd love to be a part of your world, and I'd love to be for you to be a part of mine, but the the standard is this thing. And I think, we all get to a point, I think, where we've had it and we're like, I've got to do things differently. But we we have not traditionally, culturally been taught to create boundaries and to enforce boundaries, healthy boundaries. And so I think that's another reason why many of us find it hard to do. So folks like you, you're big sis. We want to figure out, we want to do what you're doing. We're trying to get there because there are so many of us who we're carrying, the some of the secrets that we're carrying are, I've got people in my life that I don't want to deal with, and I don't know how to get them out. I don't know how to draw boundaries. I don't know how to deal with that. And I can say that because I was one of those people drawing boundaries, because I'm been conditioned as a people pleaser, is really hard, because there's, what if they're angry with me? What if they don't like it? What
Mhm.
if, that whole what if thing? And so one of the things that, you learn through therapy and through dealing with people who do set healthy boundaries, you learn it takes practice. It is something that not everybody can just put up the boundary and say, okay, I'm good. Nobody crosses my boundaries. Gradually we learn how to push back on, when people try to cross our boundaries, we push back. And so it becomes a gradual thing for many of us. So I really appreciate the fact that your mother modeled that for you. It's almost like she broke that generational curse, like that cultural curse. Because
Mhm.
I think, like I said, as a culture, we've got that whole, what happens in the house stays in the house. We've kind of been groomed culturally that we don't have really strong boundaries. And so that, I think that's another reason that shows up in our everyday lives, in our businesses and relationships and everything.
I think that when you've been hurt enough, every hurt instills in you some type of boundary. If you're self-reflective about hurt, then it can help you establish a boundary. And I think that's where, for me, that's where mine came from because, even though my mom was a boss mom, she helped a lot of people. So, it's at times it was people taking advantage or, taking her kindness for weakness and
Mm,
things like that. And that would go on. And of course, this is from the lenses of like a youngster trying to remember, things that have happened. But I remember that she would help tons of people, but then when she needed help, where was the help?
exactly.
So I think that that helped her establish a boundary, and even, subconsciously, even remembering that and just saying, well, I'm gonna be a help, but I'm gonna help you to a point. I'm not gonna help you to the detriment of what I got going on.
Mhm.
So that even set a boundary. Being disappointed, being hurt, set boundaries for yourself because unless you just like to feel that hurt, then hey, keep saying
Mm,
yes.
right, right.
But if you saying no is so powerful that it, it does take practice to use it. And the more that you use it, the more empowered you get as you use it and set that boundary. You know, saying no to somebody never stopped them from doing what it is that they wanted you to do anyway. They just want to go to the next.
Right.
Just
Right.
just just
Right.
ask somebody else. Just,
Hmm.
and so, just that idea of like even as a kid, and some people do, and parents, I remember, give such and such a hug. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Right.
And even with my niece and my nephew, I asked, can I have a hug?
Right.
And
That's definitely a culture shift.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody made me give anybody a hug. It's just the idea, you know, I see it now.
Hmm.
Raising my daughter, I didn't never make her give anybody a hug. My thing was like, don't let nobody touch you. Like, stranger danger as much as possible.
Right.
And even my niece, my nephew, and they love me and I love them, but it's like I still ask, can I have a hug? My nephew, he's gonna be 13. He might not be wanting a hug on his aunt. So I'm gonna ask him. His voice is
Hmm.
about to change. He about
Hmm.
to grow up.
Right.
So just those type of things like, having boundaries and standards, but also, respecting that other people's
Mhm.
too, you know, helps you to operate in an authentic space. And, you know, the it brings about a level of vulnerability too, because you're not just taking what you want. That's one of the things I think of when I think of a strong black woman, that we just, do everything, take everything on our shoulders, take things that we want and things like that. But see, that's not true. That's not how that works. It's really a vulnerability in being a black woman because, we have, we can be subject to, you know, a criticism when we show up in a full way, or
Mhm.
some type of judgment, mislabeled judgment, and things like that. So at times it can stop us from showing up. But another thing is like, people going to think what they want to think anyway. It's like
Right.
you're going to think what you want to think anyway, so why do I need to fit in your box? You already want
Exactly.
to think what
You're
you
not gonna like me whether I fit or whether I don't fit. You're not gonna like me. So
Yes.
let me make sure that it's really a good founded reason for you not to like me. I'm gonna show up in my blackety black self, and you just you gonna have to deal with me.
Yes.
Listen, I have so enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you so very much. I know you have a bunch of stuff that you have planned for your audience. I know you said you work with Black women and helping them to get their brand and their voice to be seen and heard. So tell us a little bit about what you got coming up and how we can get in touch with you. If we want to connect with you on social, how do we stay in touch with Toni S. Brown?
Well, that's funny because my monikers everywhere is Brand Coach Toni. So it's Brand Coach Toni at Brand Coach Toni on Instagram and Miss Toni S Brown on LinkedIn. I recently opened up a store called the Brand and Beyond, based on my word of the year, which is worthy, and that's one of the words that came out of I finished taking the Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women program. I was in
Mhm.
Cohort 6, and they asked what our word of the year was, and mine was worthy. And so from worthy, that was the cup that you saw me.
Yes, very nice.
So out of that, just one word, I created a bunch of, affirming products, teas and mugs and journals. Like I have worthy journals sitting here, but just things like be you. Like one that says be you, and then I have one for the guys that says classic chocolate and handsome. So it's like affirming wear, and it's teas and nobles, but that's not the point. The point is the message, not
Mhm.
what it's on. It's the message that I just it came to me and I said, I'm going to start a store. So I have that. It's the brandandbeyond.com. It's, the brand dash and dash beyond.com. Then on brandcoachtoni.com, I have a free download. It is my 2025 personal branding playbook, 5 game changing strategies for women in leadership and entrepreneurs. So that's a free download that you can get straight from my site.
That is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm going to make sure that gets down in the podcast notes so you'll be able to link directly to that and you guys can go and visit and download her stuff and buy her stuff and totally connect with Toni S. Brown, Coach Toni, Brand Coach Toni. I thank you. Listen, we just met and this has been a conversation like we've been sister friends for a while. So I just thank you for your willingness to come on the show and share with my audience, because we're trying to get to unperturbed, child. We're trying to get out from under this strong Black woman
Mind
stuff.
mind your business. If you just mind your business, then
Drink your water, my
hey,
God.
mind your business. If you mind your business, then you don't have to carry the weight of other people's business. Just mind your own.
Listen, we could have started right there. We could
Yeah.
have started that and said amen and logged,
Yes.
because that's the podcast. That's it. Good night, everybody. Listen, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Y'all support Brand Coach Toni. Y'all go to her stuff. And don't forget to join us at The Haven, the community for high achieving Black women. Go to enterthehaven.net. And I will see you there. And I also will see you in the next episode. Till then, take care and take care of you. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me for another powerful conversation. If that hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. And definitely share this with a sister friend so she can get in on this too. Now look, don't just stop here. Let's continue the conversation inside The Haven, my private Facebook community where we get even deeper and do the real work of shedding the strong Black woman mindset. This is a safe space I've curated just for us. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us today. Now, before you go, drop a comment and let me know what resonated with you the most, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, take care of you first. See you soon.